Welcome to History of 40K, a 40K Lorecast series with John Barsati and Brad Chester.
This guy.
On today's episode, we'll be diving further into the 4th edition of the game with a focus on actual play in the game on the tabletop and then some of the units and data sheets associated with it. Joining us today, once again, is Alan, who we did not give enough credit to in our last cast because Alan was actually one of the best players in the world during this edition. Hand over fist. We probably should have called that out just instead of saying this is a friend we kind of like. Alan, when did you win the ITC?
I prefer to be a friend that you guys kind of like. I won the ITC in 2016.
Let's say 2016.
Okay, so that was later. Okay,
there's a big check on the wall, so I just looked at it.
A big check for not a lot of money.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, welcome back. So let's begin. Last week, we covered what were the common rules of the game. This week, we're going to dive more into the actual tabletop play of the game, which some of it was massively improved in this edition, if I'm being honest, by really streamlining some of the stuff from 3rd into 4th to make the game much more appealing from a tabletop, like, competitive sense. One thing that my notes got pumped into the garbage over was I was under the impression that people played the rules in the rule book. And
the missions in the rule book. You thought foolishly that we actually used that rule book. But what happened is that each and every time you went somewhere, it was really up to the tournament organizers. The TOs were the people in charge of missions, how you were playing, what things were legal, for one. And one of the biggest things is it was very, very dependent on where you were, depending on where you were in the country. If you're playing out west, out east, down south, the Midwest, the metas were so different because of the fact that you had such different missions. The way you were playing to win was wildly different, which meant that, of course, you were bringing different units, different styles of armies, and that varied vastly depending on where you were.
And I want to dive into that a little bit because you said something that, the missions changed. Most people watching this are probably coming at this from a 10th, maybe 9th, 8th edition viewpoint. When we say the missions are different, I mean, it's wholeheartedly like from scratch, basically.
Yeah, you would not know the missions before the event. No events had the same missions. Every event had different missions. Regionally, they would be drastically different missions. They could also be totally different deployments. We really didn't follow any of the rules in the book. It was kind of there was a certain art and passion, and I think a Courtney out of the boys on this one quite a bit. There was like an art and a passion to design your own tournament packet in a way that your goal was for everyone to have fun. You did want it to be competitive. You didn't want it to be like unique, skewed, and also terrain. Like you'd have TOs that would like specifically make themed terrain and themed packets and themed missions. And you would have all of that be like a thing. Like you'd go and like that was like their pride. Like they took their weekend off, but they made a volcano board with like a fire theme, and like the middle of the board, like molten lava got on you and you had to deploy in the corners instead of like
board,
normal
chaos board. They had so many different. And this is so crazy because today everybody goes, what are you playing? Well, day one, we're playing GW Type 2. We're playing WT Style 4. That wasn't a thing. You could be playing on different tables. You would be playing at different tables every single game. And round 2, Alan and I would be playing next to each other on 2 wildly different tables.
Yeah, and this is me. I just think it's fascinating for people today because it is. I left the game in 2nd. I came back at the kind of beginning of 8th, and in 8th you still did see some disparity on tables, but not like this, not this level. This was because it's not just that.
No.
You built the table there, so that's actually what I was kind of confused by. I see when I'm looking at the Adepticon missions, for example, from like 2005. I can see like setting the table, setting terrain. Was it placed terrain primarily, or was it fixed?
No, it was fixed. It was fixed terrain, or the tournament would tell you where to put the terrain. That's actually kind of one thing that's very similar to the way it is now, where TOs back then would tell you where terrain is supposed to go. So you would get it, but it wasn't consistent. And the terrain wasn't the same. It wasn't a bunch of obscuring ruins of different sizes. It was all different kinds of terrain.
Yeah. It was big because you were supposed to leave the tables alone.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to actually move stuff around on the tables. We used to have like always spot to the left or to the right of the tables to put your stuff. So Tournaments used to be a lot smaller. So venues were always more accommodating than they needed to be. Tournaments were not like now. Like there was nothing like that, like current 40 or like nothing like the last 5 years. A 30-person tournament in 2005 was great. Like it was amazing.
Oh, wow. Really? Okay. So that was part of it too, is you actually only had like 10, 15 boards.
Yeah. And a 30-person tournament once a month is like unheard of. That'd be like awesome if you could do that. But like,
okay.
But there was a lot of travel, the big events. I mean, you could list them on one hand, right? Like there was the Boys GT, Adepticon, Broadside Bash eventually came along like in the 2010s later, a little bit later. BAO came a little later, but there was a long period of time before LVO started kicking in. Yeah, War Games Con was in there in Texas. There was a couple others that I'm forgetting to mention, but there was a point where you didn't need BCP, right? There's like 7 big events like annually.
Yeah.
And then there's like sporadic events monthly. And there was very rarely like, oh, I could go to 7 different tournaments this week. Which one do I want to go? That didn't exist. That wasn't a thing.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. Now, that's actually kind of what I wanted to talk into about some of the missions themselves, because the first thing what I do see when I look over them is that while we didn't use the missions from the book at the time, you did use some of the rules, because what they added was mission special rules.
Right.
We
used all the rules. So pretty much every rule in the book was used. Actually, I think we don't use a lot of rules today. There's like a lot of rules about things like terrain, for example, that we choose not to use. I know in Age of Sigmar, quick side note, like I went to tournaments and no one plays with the terrain special rules. And like it's just weird. Like they just forget it. I think back and forth, we used to play with all the rules. Like there was a river.
Much.
Yeah. Amphibious, right? Like we'd play with anything. Like any rule you have, people couldn't wait to play with it. Like it was fun.
Yeah, so that's fine. And that's what I like is like, I think this edition, and it makes sense. It didn't occur to me until you just told that thing about you only have an event like 30 players. It gives you a lot more flexibility because you've only got 30 people to appease. It's actually easier than like 130 because at 130, you will get a few people who get really butthurt. At 30, it's like, hey man, everyone else is having a good time. Can you just do that?
I think, what was the GT? They get it 2 to 8. You were 60 some people, but that was like a big event.
Yeah, it was a huge event. Yeah, those were huge. Yeah. I mean, you can go back and look, like consider Adepticon until the LVO was in existence. Adepticon was probably the largest tournament, like in the United States, at least for sure. I'd say globally. And you can just go back and look at like 2010 Adepticon. How many people were there? I think it was a lot, but it's nowhere near the numbers today. Like it's not uncommon for the UK to have a 200 plus person tournament every single month. They have like every month.
They have 400 people tournaments.
They have like 400 people tournaments, right? Like that wasn't a thing back then.
Jesus. All right. Well, let's spend a little bit of time talking about the missions and how they were played. So first off, you've got, deployment. Deployments actually does move a little bit. So it's interesting. I noticed like even the deployment could shift around a little bit where you'd have, you take turns deploying, but there was supposed to be an order of operation. Sounds like no one did that though. Heavy support troops, elites, HQ, fast attack. That didn't happen.
There were people that did it. I would say the top players didn't really do it, and they were annoyed by it, I would say. But there were every once in a while where like I remember going to an event and I would just deploy my army, and then my opponent would be like, okay, I'm going to put a unit here, and I'm like, I'm done. Go ahead. And they're just like, no, we got to take turn. We got to do it in order, and I'm like, no, we don't. Like, take your OCD, ship it somewhere. I don't care. This is where my army is. like get on with your life, man.
Ship it somewhere.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna sit here and cater to you. This is where my shit is. Like, let's play. So
with that though, the one thing I do want to talk about, because I think it's one of the craziest parts of this, we talk about deployment, is reserves. Because for someone playing the game today, they don't understand how luxurious the reserves role is.
The fact that you just didn't, we used to not have reserves, just almost period. You couldn't just place something in reserve. Nowadays, you can just go, hey, I would like this unit of random people to be in strategic reserve. Unless you had the ability, or the actual rule that said, I can put this in reserve, I can deep strike this. You couldn't put any of this stuff in reserve unless the mission told you, unless you were playing escalation or reverse escalation. You just weren't putting anything.
Or you had deep strike, special.
Yeah, you had a deep strike.
Yeah. But honestly, I played so many editions of this though that I kind of feel like I cheat now when I play in 10th and I put something in reserve. I'm like, wait, can I do that? I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. This edition, I could
but half your army.
I also wonder like how much I can put. Like, what are the rules for like half your army? Because there was a period where like if a unit started in a drop pod, it didn't count as half. If a unit, so it's like so there's just like weird stuff. But yeah, no. Not only were you not able to put things in reserve, but they didn't automatically come on.
That's the biggest one, I think, because today we put something in your reserve, especially if it has a deep strike keyword, unless your opponent is a massive horde army, it's coming on the board in turn 2 if you want it to. It comes on basically whenever you want it to, because it's just hard to stop that. Not in 4th edition. In 4th edition, you had to roll a dice, and there was no guarantee roll, which is the most mind-blowing.
4 up.
No, actually, it was guaranteed. Your stuff did come in on 4. Your stuff came in on 4. On turn 2, you rolled. It only came in on a 4 or better.
Oh, okay.
And then on turn 3, you rolled. It came in on a 3 or better. Yep. And if you didn't roll a 4, and you didn't roll a 3, then you would get automatically come in on turn 4.
But on turn 4, that's so crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You sure? Because the rules I'm looking at said you had to roll. It was roll a 4 on 2, a 3 on 3, and a 2 on 4. You had to roll a 2 on 4. So maybe
it might have been a 2 on 4, and then it might come on a 5. That's possible. Yeah, that's possible. On 5. But it would come out. It would come out. Yeah, it would come out eventually. And there were whole games. That like that was a big problem. Yeah, you'd put stuff in reserve. And this isn't a 4th thing. This existed in 5th and 6th and 7th, maybe. I don't know. This existed for a while.
7th was different.
Rolling.
7th is 7th.
Yeah. But rolling to get stuff on the board did exist for a while.
Right.
Yeah, but my favorite part of that, though, is that we're discussing getting on the board, and then if it was deep strike, you had to roll a scatter dice. And this is brutal. So
yeah, but there was
this
no
caused a lot. This caused a lot of arguments.
Yes.
This is the worst thing I can imagine.
But it was crazy, though. You used to be able to set up. You could actually set up as close as you wanted.
But you can't charge.
No, but that was the thing. Some things could. Remember, demons could just show up and just go. Yeah.
Some things could charge.
That's right. So there's no 9-inch rule, but... You put one model. So let's talk about the best part about Deep Strike, which is you had to then use a scatter dice. So you place one model, and then you roll a scatter dice.
That's the best part of deviation.
This is the best part because this is the part that makes everyone lose their mind and yell at each other because you don't want to lose the game over. Was basically
you also rolled your scatter dice about 1.5 miles from the actual.
Well, this is the whole part. Yeah. So the model goes down in the spot you want it. Then you roll a scatter dice, maybe near that, maybe not near that. And if it's a hit, we're good. You're probably not. If it's got an arrow, you then got to protractor your way onto the board, figure out what direction the arrow is pointing, and then roll 2d6 to see how far that model goes, which is automatically not a good thing.
Let me tell you the angle how it goes. Ready? You start here, and by the time you get over to your opponents over there.
Yeah. There's no scenario that this roll means it's always bad for you or your opponent.
You need to roll the scatter right next to the model, and you get away from those. I would just force people to do it, too. If someone rolled their scatter on the other side of the board, I'd be like, no, roll it again.
Everybody would lose their mind on you, though.
I don't care.
You rolled your dice
and they'd be like,
so close.
They'd be like, I rolled a hit. I don't care. You have to roll it right here.
Yeah, I want to see it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what actually happens, though.
So yes, okay. So you roll your dice, you roll your 2d6, and then they move in this almost random direction that's technically not random for, let's say, 7 inches. And the problem you run into is you move them that far, and that model, maybe it's not touching anything, but it's right up against enemy models, the edge of the board, or your own models, which means you can't deploy on top of that because you can't put a model in an unplaceable position. So what happens next, guys?
The unit's dead automatically, never comes back. Yeah. Yeah, but keep in mind that most of the deep striking units at this time, because most armies didn't have a way to charge. There was no assaulting after deep striking. Didn't exist. You couldn't do it. So because of that, the vast majority of things were shooting deep strike. Most things were shooting deep strike. And then the armies that did have the best shooting deep strike, they had things like teleport homers or icons or some special rule where they don't roll scatter.
You just were putting them wherever they wanted to.
So like there were strategic like generals who were like
right.
Deep strike was used like a scalpel, right? Like you'd like 3 Terminators from Chaos Space Marines with all melta-guns is like the thing to play. Like, it's like 78 points or something. All 3 have, there's like a chain fist and there's a bunch of melta-guns. And you're like, cool, dog. These guys are going to go right here. They're going to blow up your Land Raider. And they're going to go to Pound Town after
Double
that.
penetration.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. So like that was an example, but there was a lot of like shooty based, deep strikey things.
So before I get into my favorite thing, which is the random game length, I do want to talk about how you won the game, because random game length, I think, makes the winning the game even nastier. So how do you actually win a game in 4th edition?
It purely depends on the tournament. The tournaments are crazy. So, I mean, like at the end of the day, like the 4th edition didn't like recreate the wheel. Neither does 10th, right? Warhammer 40K bogs down to essentially 3 main concepts, right? Score objectives, take ground, or kill things. Like that's really all that the game is. It's never going to really be anything different. So you would have a primary mission, secondary mission, and tertiary mission. At most tournaments would run that kind of style. Adepticon made it really popular. And you'd get like 20 points for the primary and like 10 points for secondary and then like 7 points for tertiary. And they would all have like compartmental objectives. And this was pretty much how 4th worked. So you'd have to like hold the middle, have more guys in the middle.
Table
that
quarters,
would get you. Table quarters was the one.
Points.
Table quarters was really popular, actually. Table quarters was really popular.
In this edition, if you tabled the opponent, did you auto win?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
There was that too. So you could play hyper aggressive, table them, and then you auto won the event.
Yeah, it didn't matter at that
Yes. It didn't matter at that point. If you get tabled, and I think that should be a rule forever. Like any general who loses their entire army, like should just lose the game. Like that's so silly. It's like playing Monopoly and you never bought a house, but somehow you won. It's like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. Like, I'm confused.
It is a weird thing we have in 10th edition where it's like, so I tabled you. Yeah, but you actually can't score more points than me.
Yeah, try playing Risk and you take all of Asia and Australia and you're like, I'm the best. And then like you lose after that. You're like, but I got so many points in the middle of the game. It's like, that doesn't matter. You don't have any more freaking dudes. Like it makes no sense to me that if you get tabled, you can still win. It's crazy.
Yeah, but the reason I want to talk about the tabling, because that's where this last bit comes in. Now, random game length is, I think, every player has different memories of random game length.
It is, in my opinion, the greatest rule that we've had in 40K, as long as it wasn't weaponized by people playing slow to avoid it. That's the only problem it created. Is people would say, oh, we don't have enough time for random game length. Like, that's so stupid. Like, we should have played quicker. We should play with chess clocks. We have chess clocks now. There was not a single chess clock back in 4th edition. If you talked about a chess clock, you would have been laughed at. And which is kind of silly because honestly, if I'm giving my honest opinion, I think slow playing was so big of a problem in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. 7th was the worst slow playing era that I've ever seen. We have like literally legendary. Like if I were to make a t-shirt of famous slow players in 7th, there wouldn't be room on my XXL because there's just so many of them. But I mean, I can't believe we didn't play with chess clocks. But yeah, no, random game length is fantastic because currently in the game right now, it's so silly going second and just being able to fully expose your entire army and like, oh, I got 15 points. And it's like, that's just so dumb. 15 just to primary. And then you get like a bunch of secondary points too, or whatever, however it works these days. But it's just crazy. That's too many. It's too much.
Let's talk about random game length and how it works. So random game length was you get to the end of the 6th turn? Because it was
fifth turn.
And a 5th. And it continued. It continued on a 3, and then continued its turn 7 on a 4.
There it is. So you could have, in theory, 2 more turns. Which, again, when we're talking about how tabling matters, I mean, it is wild. I could either just try and table you with those extra turns and take the victory, or it gives me more time to get units in scoring position. And because you scored the table quarters. Was it every turn or was it end of game?
Depended on the turn.
In fourth, it was all fairly end of game. Yeah, everything was end of game in 4th. Now, what happened was a tournament on the East Coast called Nova came around after 4th or around this time, and they invented sort of progressive. As far as I'm aware, they invented progressive. I didn't hear about it anywhere else before that, really, as like a main way to play. But they changed the whole thing where there was no end of turn. Like they had missions where there was nothing end of turn. The whole game was progressive
because you chose either one.
Yeah, and then that was a huge catalyst for what the ITC made later. But when we were in 4th and we were playing like regional 40K,
you just scored at the end of the game
until then. Yeah, everything was at the end of the game.
Wow, so you're playing 5 rounds, maybe 7 rounds, all for the very last round.
Yeah, and then what often happened was like. Brad would have, and I swear to God, I'm probably going to tell you the result of a real game. Brad would have like 2 table quarters. I would have 2 table quarters. Brad killed my general. I killed his general. Kill points are tied. right? And then we both have the home objective. We both still have both of our home objectives, so it's tied. So now we add up all of our points and see who won victory points.
Yeah, victory points.
That's how we would decide the game. And as long as one person had more than 50, it wasn't a draw.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was complicated. Like units that were below half, you'd get 50% of their points. If a unit was above half, you wouldn't get anything. So if you had a squad of 30 boys and you killed 14, I'm good.
Yep.
You don't get any points for the unit.
Yeah, the victory points, I was going to ask you about the victory points, because victory points are, when I read it, it's wild. So victory points, for those of you who don't know they are, is your army, let's say it's a 2,000 point game. So obviously you have 2,000 points in your list, just like we do today. And every unit makes up those points. Victory points were determined by, to Alan's point, any non-vehicle unit that was at 50% of its strength or higher, no victory points. So you have to get them beyond that. If they're fully destroyed, full points. Same with vehicles are obviously goofy. If it's still moving around and partying, no points. If it's immobilized, you get half the points. And if it's destroyed, full points. Same thing for transports, vehicle squadrons, everything.
Yeah, and this was actually like a really interesting thing in fourth, because we would catch a lot of cheating with army construction and points at this point in time.
Oh, no.
You would get to this point in time and your opponent would be like, oh, well, I got 450 on the board still. And you're like, all right, let me see how much I killed. I'm just curious. And you add it all up. And like the game was 1750 at the time, or 1850 at the time. We used to play. Yeah, we used to play 1750 a lot.
1750. It didn't go to 1850 until another couple of years.
Okay, maybe you guys did it in Toledo, but us Chicago boys.
My bad. You guys were ahead of the time.
We like to pump a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
They've got their gross pizza and 100 more points.
Best pizza ever. I don't know what you're talking about. You're on crack. And we would add it all together, and we would be like, oh, dude, your list is 2,100. It's like, oh, my bad. Like that would happen.
Well, yeah, because it was all handwritten lists. I mean, people are coming in literally with a handwritten list.
So carry the one, and I'm 400 points over.
Yeah, but you would see like games end and the victory points would be calculating, and that would take like 25 minutes because people are like fudging the numbers, forgetting to carry the ones.
You would though, because you'd calculate how much you killed. You're like, hey man, I killed more than you're allowed to have, and you still have something on the board.
Wait, but that was possible too with summoning, because I remember.
That is true.
Yeah, in this edition, you could have more models than points. You could have than points allowed. So like if we're playing a 1750 game, in this edition, you could actually go over 1750 in the game.
You have to pay for anything that you summon or bring in. In this edition, you could actually bring in full new units that could go above and beyond.
All right. Well, so before we jump into some like the way you actually played, like some of the units in the game, what I want to jump into is when you guys were building a list. So you're coming into it. What are the things that you wanted in your army? Because again, like we said, we've got very random missions. We've got random terrain. Everything's pretty randomized. So what is it you were looking for when making a list in 4th edition that's like, oh, I have to have this other than the Demon Prince of Chaos?
With the Dread Axe.
So the truth is that honestly, in 4th edition, it was a breath of fresh air in the game. But codexes lingered for a long time. So like Nidzilla, Makeldar, Chaos Demon Prince Lash, Drop Pod Space Marines, Double Lash with Obliterators, and like Orc Green Tide were like the popular list for pretty much all of 4th. And like Blood Angels was kind of dying from 3rd. Like there's a bunch of Blood Angels players who loved Rhino Rush in 3rd, where you can move all your Rhinos 18, get out and charge, and everyone's like, why are we even playing this game? So like some of those players just kept playing that, like trying to keep it going. But Death Company was pretty good too. But like that was pretty much it. There was so fewer armies, right? Like there wasn't like, like Grey Knights were not yet a thing in 4th.
Necrons, they were, baby.
5th edition, they were insane. There wasn't a lot of other stuff going on. I guess Dark Eldar was also big. So like what made all these armies good? You either played an army like Dark Eldar. Like Dark Eldar is a good example. You either played an army that had all of the shooting in the world. Like I remember like a 46 Dark Lance list, and at this time it would reduce all armor to 12. You're looking for special rules, right? So like, oh, you brought armor 14, you brought armor 13. Cool. I have 47 Dark Lances. And at that time, 47 Dark Lances was like crazy. It's like insane amounts of shooting. You take that, or you take Nidzilla. Nidzilla was like, at that time, a bunch of really, really tough things that just didn't die, were really hard to kill. And they could take board, they can assault, they could shoot. There was so much going on to them, there was so many ways.
Or you took all the guns off your Nidzilla and you just punched everybody to death.
You could do that too. Yeah, you could do that too. Lash of Submission was a Chaos Space Marine power that allowed you to select a whole unit, and you get to move them 2d6 in any direction you want to move them.
No.
Yeah.
Any formation too.
It was gross. It was gross. And you could have double lash. So you could have 2 Demon Princes with lash. So you could lash and I don't think you could lash the same unit, but you did have 2 lashes. So it was gross.
2d6. So it's 2d6 extra movement, and then you charge off of that, I assume?
It's 2d6. You move their unit.
You move their unit.
Oh, their unit.
You move
so
their unit.
You could put them in a blast formation. You just squish them together.
Yes.
And then
yes. Yeah. And then Eldar, you would take
jerks.
Well, you would take Eldar because the stories I have with a local guy here, one of the best players who was playing Eldar a lot, and you couldn't kill anything. Like his vehicles were just unkillable at the time. Like Wave Serpents and stuff. They had
Spirit stones.
they were Spirit Stones they were skimmers. They had every rule in the book.
You would result. So if you moved 12 inches, so you moved your fast vehicle. If you moved, you could only be glanced, so you couldn't get a penetrating hit, period. And then the Spirit Stones said your result is roll 2 dice, take the lower.
So you get a glance.
And they also ignored 1, 2, and 3.
So I'll put it in perspective. So a glancing hit can only kill a vehicle on a 6. That's it.
Yeah.
A 5 would immobilize it, and then everything else would do other stuff. The Eldar thing would just ignore everything that wasn't a 5.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you rolled a 5 or a 6, you'd have to roll it twice. Because you have to roll 2 dice, pick the lowest result. So it's just, the thing was just unkillable. And the amount of damage it put out was crazy. And then you had things inside of it because you had Dire Avengers or Fire Dragons.
Star Cannons just was nuts.
It was nuts, man. Absolutely crazy. It was a hard game.
Star Cannons had 3 shots and they were AP2. AP2 effectively means you don't get a save period unless you have an advanced save.
Yeah. And then and then Space Marines had drop pods with dreadnoughts in them.
Yes, the Dreadnought drop pod was kind of hilarious
while other things couldn't charge, while other things in the game couldn't charge, that guy could charge. And he comes down automatically turn 1. You don't roll.
So turn
half
1
of it did.
Half of it did.
Comes down.
Half of it did.
Half of them comes out.
So if you take 5 drop pods, it's half rounding up. So 3 would come down turn 1.
And wherever they wanted. And they would charge you.
And then they would charge you. Oh, and also if you scattered onto something with a drop pod, you just move it the smallest amount so that it fits in the nearest closest spot to where it would be.
You would literally jam it on top of people.
I would just Brad played at Adepticon with 15 drop pods and made it so his opponent couldn't move his army.
Yep.
It's not funny, but that's
he brought funny. He brought in 7 drop pods on turn 1 or 8
space and drop pods, man.
And he literally blocked the entire guy's army. The army had to kill drop pods to get out.
Or he couldn't move at all. He couldn't do anything.
Yeah, he just couldn't move. He was just like, what do I do? Because I remember it, Brad. Don't you remember? There was like a rock impassable terrain on his left flank.
100%.
And you drop potted behind it and you hit there. You didn't go off the board, because if you went off the board, the drop pod actually could die. That's the only way it could die. And then in the front, I remember you just made a current. So he had 2 options: A, kill the drop pods; B, go all the way around, Magellan.
And all of my guys were right behind the drop pods.
Yeah, and all of his guys were behind the drop pods.
And I assume because drop pods are vehicles, they would block line of sight.
At that point in time, they had the weird
if you
rule.
Glued your doors.
Yeah.
If your doors were glued, they block line of sight.
But if you left them doors open,
then you could shoot through them.
Was there any value in leaving them open?
Yes.
People had both. People would play with
I had an entire army with plasma and melta, and I would put all my guys behind my drop pods and shoot through them, and then you couldn't get to me.
Oh, I see. Because you still couldn't get through them, but I would shoot. So,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh God, that is awful, but really funny. That gives me joy. All right, let's talk about some of these units real quick, because we started covering Falcon. Let's just talk Eldar for a minute, because I want to get this out of the way, because I've heard from a lot of people 4th edition Eldar was gross.
Not in the beginning. In the beginning, I think they got a codex during it, so they got an update during 4th.
I would say post codex. Yeah, always post codex.
And once they got their update, they were insane. They're definitely the codex of the edition. Eldar was the codex of the edition. It was almost unbeatable. Hollow fields and everything was crazy. And also they were not pointed appropriately. They were pointed crazy.
They also they threw Harlequins inside the Falcons and stuff like that. That was bananas.
Yeah, I mean the Harlequin rules are intriguing to say the least. Because
they were also not only the Harlequins, but they were also so much more mobile than anything else in the game. Like mobile while still being efficient. Yeah. Like that was like, and like if anyone who's like, even trying to be a good player at Warhammer, like you're going to know right away that movement is everything, which is pretty much key in any miniatures game. Movement is so important. And Eldar at this time were just leaps and bounds. I mean, now we have all these movements. We have like things that move 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and whatever. Dude, everything moved 5 or 6. Like the whole game moved 5 and 6.
5 and 6. One of the best parts is you used to have hatches, though. We should point this out. You could get out of vehicles only out of one of their hatches. So, like for instance, a Wave Serpent and a Falcon, you could only get out of the back. A Land Raider had a front.
All 4.
It had.
No back. There's no back. Yeah.
It had 2 sides and the front. And you actually had to measure out of those areas.
Oh, I can't just get out off of a corner of my...
No. You had to get out of the hatch.
Absolutely not. It was always hatches.
Yes. It was always hatches. And we also shot armor facings. So the way the model was on the board mattered so much more than it does now. It doesn't matter at all now, but it mattered a lot then.
But we covered the Falcon and the fact that it just made it so you couldn't do anything to it.
Yeah, and Wave Serpents were hard to kill. A typical Eldar army during 4th was like 2 Falcons and like 8 Wave Serpents with like stuff in them.
Okay.
It was basically kind of it. That was like the gist of the army. And the Wave Serpents had a ton of shots with star cannons. Falcons had a ton of shots. And then there was permutations of this list that started to create in 5th. You started getting like walking Eldar, so you started getting a lot of Wraith Lords and like a lot of shooting, walking shooting. You started getting that. That came later.
That's later. Okay, so
well, because the game kind of moved to infantry-based game. So then that became more popular. I think also Wave Serpents probably took a hit somewhere along the line. They got nerfed a little bit when rules changed. But in 4th, it was very much a Wave Serpent heavy army. You'd have a lot of that.
And I have to ask because it's Eldar. Did you play Eldrad in this edition? And if so,
yes.
Did people appreciate it when you did?
Yeah. No, everyone characters were a lot more tame.
Oh, okay. That's
good. Well, 3rd edition, everything, the characters were broken.
Oh, yeah. No, 3rd was totally different.
Yeah.
All right. Well, from them, who should we go to next? Should we do Chaos next, or should we do...
Let's talk about things like the Nightbringer, man. That's when characters, like some of these characters are still bananas.
All right, so Nightbringer, because that's right, the Nightbringer book comes out now. I don't know if anyone actually played the other one, the Deceiver.
He actually could redeploy, which is unheard of in the game.
Eldrad had it. Oh, unheard of. Look at you over here. You're
unheard of. But like, so he was T8 and strength 10. Which means that if you had a strength 4 weapon, you couldn't hurt him. And he was also doubling everybody's toughness. So if he got 1 wound through, he just killed you.
Yeah, but like competitive players didn't really care. We just ignored him. He was cool. He was really cool at the time. Like he was great. Don't get me wrong. Brad's not wrong. But you would just shoot the rest of the army. And then Necrons had the worst rule ever made in the history of rules. It's like the worst rule ever. It's the stupidest shit I ever heard in my life. You'd like add up all your models. I forgot what it was exactly, but it's like something along the lines of you add up all your models. It was your model count.
It was model count.
If let's say your army, and Necrons were kind of expensive at the time. So like if you took a monolith and Nightbringer, like this is going to happen to you quickly.
When you got down to 25% of your army,
it was 25%.
Auto left. Because you auto lose, if you get tabled, you auto lost. So you could be destroying someone, but you get down to 25% of your army, and then you automatically lose by maximum.
I don't understand that rule. Like
because they're saving all. When they get down, they grab all the Necrons.
Oh no,
and they leave.
Lore wise, I get it. But what am I getting for that? What I'm saying is I'm giving
nothing.
Up the fact that if you kill a
honestly nothing. Honestly, nothing. The Necron Codex at this time was very limited. It was very light. It didn't have all the bells and whistles it has today. I mean, it had like not even probably half as much variety as it had back then.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Nightbringer and Deceiver were cool, but they were nowhere near. They were nowhere near. What the Necron book needed to be a super competitive army. I think it was good. I think it was a nightmare for like mid tables. I think it was a mid table killer. Like it was kind of like Knights are right now. Well, not now. I think Knights. Did Knights get nerfed yet, Brad? I don't know.
They're kind of, I mean, yes. Okay. By the time we're doing this,
by the time it comes out, Knights are nerfed. But
Knights got nerfed.
Yeah. So like the vast majority of the Knights' existence is kind of how Necrons were in fourth. Like kind of that mid table, like pretty reasonable to go 4-1 or 3-2, but not winning stuff really.
All right. The other one that I had to do some research for the cast, and I look up, hey, what was good, what was bad. The next one on the list was Tyranids. Was basically Carnifexes.
So good. Carnifexes were. You also had. So the review real quick from last time we talked, which is we had a force org chart, which was 2 HQs, 6 troops, 3 elites, 3 heavies, 3 fast. That's the max you could bring. Carnifexes were heavies and elites, so you could put 6 Carnifexes down, which was a huge deal.
That makes more sense. I'm like, these are good, but I thought they were limited.
No. You take a lot.
Oh, and it's melee or shooty.
Well, you can make them all shooty. It's just
you can make. I don't think anyone would like. I remember the lists that I was most worried about back then were the mixed lists where you'd have like 4-2 or 3-3, and you'd probably old One Eye and some other stuff.
One Eye.
You would 1,000% bring Old One Eye.
Old One Eye, 6 other Carnifexes, a Hive Tyrant, and then your other stuff. But you're effectively bringing 8 big creatures.
Yeah, and at that time they were like today's 40K. There's every army has something big, sort of like there's a lot of big stuff, and then Knights redefine the game of what's big, and like there's like then you have Primarchs that redefine even Knights. So like there's a lot of like changes. Like in 4th edition, this would be the equivalent of playing with 6 Primarchs, and you have the Emperor. Like that's basically what it kind of felt like in 4th.
Your whole army is ignoring armor saves in close combat. So if you touched anything and you wounded them, unless they had an invuln save, they just died.
Right, because
there's no armor saves. Yeah,
because they're weapon size. And yeah, I do love the org chart for the Carnifex. Just the amount of biomorphs you could pick from.
Yes.
Incredible.
This is second to Demon Prince of Chaos.
Yeah, and I like it. They even put on their recommendations. So hey, if you want to have a Screamer Killer, then you take your Carnifex and you give him these enhancements, and it becomes a Screamer Killer basically.
Yeah.
And some of these are dirty. That's the
fact that you used to have the shooty Carnifexes were shooting 24 times. It was just bananas.
What? How?
Because they took 2 shooty guns.
Oh God! So it's 2 guns.
Yeah. So in this edition, you were not like able to take 2 weapons or use 2 weapons, or if you had a 2-handed weapon, you could only use one of them. But when you had a monster, it could take 2.
Yeah.
So Carnifexes had 2-handed like gun weapons.
Oh. All right. And I also read online that the Gene Stealers were good. Was this back when Gene Stealers were good, or is that different?
Because rending
claws.
So if you rolled a 6 and you could make it a 5 a certain way, but whatever, the rending claws already had a good penetration. But if you rolled a 6, you got no save against their attack.
Also because of initiative.
Oh yeah, they were initiative 1,000,000.
They're initiative 6 I think they're initiative 6 at the time. So
initiative 6, right? So basically, they would fight first, and you're carrying
always
6 to 12 of them, and then so you've got rending claws. You're going through there. Unfortunately, I guess they still move the same speed as everything else, though. They didn't get this. They didn't get the fun.
Well, they had fleet, did they not?
I think they had fleet of claw. Yeah, so they would get an extra D6.
Oh, so they would move 6 plus D6 then?
Yeah, something like that. If I remember correctly, yes. 6 plus D6 and then charge 6.
Okay. So these were fun. All right. So Tyranids were real good.
But Tyranids were great.
Tyranids are great in this edition.
But let's finish up with I think the most famous thing from the edition, which is Chaos. Chaos got their they got their 3.5 Codex in 3rd edition. We come into 4th edition, and now we're getting, is this the best?
It's the best Chaos.
Best they were.
The Dread X didn't give you a save, period. You couldn't take invulns or regulars, so you just died if he hit you.
All right, so let's go with Chaos Space Marines. So you also had greater demons, I guess, with part of it too. So let's just go with, make it easy. People are playing today. I found it. Yeah, Demon Prince. All right, I'm in.
Well, the greater demons were awesome because you could only bring greater demons in if you summoned them off one of your sergeants, because you could summon them off characters. And you have one of the upgrades you could take was called chains. Chains would make it so that only that guy would be summoned, and you auto get him when he comes in. Otherwise, your greater demon would have to be rolled for every single character in your army. And if you rolled a 6, he just replaced that guy. So that Chaos Lord that you just spent a bazillion points on with all of his upgrades, poof, he is red mist, and he's now the Bloodthirster. So you'd bring a cultist champ that literally you would summon him off that.
Yeah, they would be summoned off of the Chaos Icon. Wherever the Chaos Icon is your unit, that's how they would come in.
Yep.
Oh, this is so caught me. I will say, it's funny because we're talking about this and I'm remembering Force org charts again. Like, oh yeah, I forgot there were all these rules on what you could.
It'd be cool because one of your guys would explode and become a greater demon, but also when you summoned a unit of demons, it came off the icon right next to your guys.
Okay. All right, so let's go.
And unlike other reserves, they could charge.
Ew. That just doesn't seem fair. All right, but let me talk about the one that everyone seems to love to talk about, which is the Demon Prince. So the Demon Prince, if I'm understanding this correctly, is just one of the most customizable in the game, effectively.
Oh, yeah.
And all right, what do you bring? Because there's too many things on this sheet. I'm looking.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff you could. The Demon Prince was very customizable and very, very good. If you wanted a hand-to-hand Demon Prince, you brought the Dreadaxe Demon Prince. The Dreadaxe Demon Prince, the actual weapon said it does not allow invulnerable saves. A monstrous creature doesn't allow regular saves. So the combination meant you didn't get a save. If he wounded you, you just took it.
Oh, good God.
Yep.
Oh,
and it was one of the only things until Swarm Lord came, like much later. But that was like the only way to like get basically cut through an invulnerable save was Nightbringer, Swarm Lord,
Calidus Assassin.
Calidus Assassin, but not as
Calidus Assassin was using a Necron weapon as its
weapon. Also not as survivable as the other three I mentioned. But yes,
God no, the Calidus Assassin.
Oh God. All right, so I think that's a good breakdown of kind of the addition from that. Is there any other data sheets that we're missing, Brad, Alan?
Not the top of my head. There's so much stuff, but
okay.
Yeah, the answer is yes, probably.
The goal here was to give everyone kind of a flavor of what was 4th edition like. So, because we're talking again like 2003 to 2008, somewhere in that realm. It's it's for infancy of the internet. It's getting there, it's growing, it's there, but we haven't really hit the meat and potatoes yet. I think to Alan's, I like the comment you made earlier, Alan, about like, hey, a big tournament was 30 players.
Yeah,
that's where we're at. And whereas today, hell, Adepticon today sells out at I think 500. And that's just the singles.
Yeah, it's totally different. Yeah, totally different. I think the only things that we could have talked about potentially, but we'd probably need a little bit of prep just to remember, would have been like Forge World stuff. There was a lot of Forge World stuff that could have been legal in your region or not. But if it was legal, there's a lot of stuff.
Well, I think next week we're getting to 5th edition, and I think that's when Forge World starts to really ramp up. As
you also had your make your own stuff, which was
a little bit.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the coolest thing ever. Actually, my bad.
Let's do it.
Orc looted vehicles.
All right, let's close on my favorite army. So tell me more about orc looted vehicles, because this is something that it's funny, the game Dawn of War, I know them from that because the orcs had a tank. And the orcs have never had a tank.
So you could
a tank.
You could take any vehicle in the game. You have to orcify it. There's a tax on top of the vehicle. So you just use the Space Marine points for a Land Raider. The Land Raider becomes an orc Land Raider. Oh. You can carry orcs just like the Land Raider can carry Marines. You could take las cannons. You can even take a machine spirited bolter thing. You could take everything. It's the same tank.
You used to loot basilisks so much.
You could loot basilisks. I love looting basilisks. I still have looted basilisks. So you could loot basilisk. You can loot manacle. You could loot anything. Any vehicle in the game you could technically loot. You just had to pay the tax for it, and you had to like actually put effort into the model. There was one guy who came to a tournament with like just regular generic models that look like the real thing, like no effort in looting. And the TO was like, no, I can't play with any of those because they're not looted. So yeah, you could loot anything. You could loot rhinos. Now, I would say that the tax was crazy. It was pretty substantial. It wasn't like cheap. You paid a pretty good amount of tax.
But you could loot anything.
But you could loot anything. And you didn't, even though you looted their vehicle, you shot with orc ballistic skills.
Oh.
So like, yeah, you got a las cannon, but you still hit on 5s. Right? Like, but it was still fun. Like if you wanted, it's more about fun. Though. Yeah, it's more about
Vessels
fun.
Are so good because of the fact that you were just placing and then you were deviating. So it didn't
you were just placing and deviating. Yeah. So it was cool. It was really, really fun. It was fun to loot stuff.
Orcs should not be allowed to have artillery. That's just not.
Yes, they should.
I know. I believe you. As someone I've run orc artillery before, and we had the rocket situation.
You couldn't loot regular artillery, so you couldn't loot like thud guns or like Medusa, like the ones with like the men carrying the artillery. Just only tanks. You can only loot tanks. So, but if you painted it red, it goes an extra inch.
We also should address that. That is. It's
a real rule. It's an actual rule.
Oh no, I'm happy with a lot of the changes that they've made to the game over the years. But the orcs, I think, unfortunately, took a lot of the biggest hits as we've gone through the edition because they were the funniest ones, and the rules were adorable. But yeah, paint it red, you get an extra inch of movement. I think blue, you get an extra plus on your save. There were a couple random ones like that. Yeah,
I think blue had a re-roll of failed save once per game.
Yeah. Just still,
but like maybe second edition. I can't remember, but yeah,
there's an era where the colors really did matter. You could do some amazing stuff with it.
Purple key couldn't see them.
Still can't see purple orc. Still can't see them.
Not true.
That's just a rule. That's just
Brad.
That's just an established rule. Purple
can't
orcs,
see, man.
Yeah. I mean,
might as well be the predator, bro. Can't see him.
I'm aware of this rule as well. If you can't, the thing is, you also can't play with purple orcs because if you can see them, then they're not purple. That's the issue. It's only you have to.
Purple orcs are basically purple. John Cena, bro.
Yeah, you have to get them properly purple, or else they're gonna. But all right, well, that's fun. I think next week we're going to jump into 5th edition. The whole goal here is we're going to get through all the editions, and then we'll come back through focusing more on certain mechanics or certain units within the editions. But next week, or sorry, not next week, in 2 weeks, I'm still not used to this fortnightly thing.
Fortnight.
Yeah, in a fortnight, we're going to come back and get into 5th edition, which is, again, more of a rule tightening. It's not that big of a deviation, but it's more of a rule tightening off of 4th. We get some improvements from some of the wonky stuff that existed in 4th edition. They cleaned it up a little bit. Like GW is a master of learning a lesson, making a new edition to totally address those lessons, and then releasing a bunch of codexes over the course of the edition to totally undo whatever that they'd learned.
True story.
But with that, this is Alan, John, and Brad.
This guy.
See you, everybody, in a couple of weeks.